One of the things that I really like about working with these nodes is just how flexible everything is. There's never a point when I say, oh no, I've really messed up, I made this connection and it's just gone horribly wrong. What do I do? Oh no, oh no. Everything that we're doing can be connected in any kind of way, they all fit together. And in the end, it's just beautiful how many edits that I can make to things. So in this video, I want to add some grout in between my tiles, and I also want to add a bump map. So I am going to start with a node called a grid. There we go, that's a grid. The grid is a Maya node, so it comes with a Place 2D texture. It's set up to have 4 repeats by 4 repeats. You'll remember that my checker has 6 by 6. So just to see what this thing is doing, if I click onto the grid node, I've got a line color, a fill color, a U width, a V width, and this contrasty bit. The line color is set to white. I'm going to take that and set it to bright red so I can see it really well. And the fill color, I'm going to take my checker node and pipe that into the fill color. Then I will go out color to the base color, so now my grid is connected to the floor material, not the checker. So let's go ahead and run a render and just see what the grid is doing. I know you can kind of see a little bit from here, and you're probably thinking, oh my god, it looks horrible, right? Right? If you're not, you should be. So the grid is creating this big red grid, and inside each grid box, I'm seeing my checkerboard. So the red should be the grout that surrounds my tiles, and it's not. It doesn't have the same number of repeats as the checker, and in fact, if my math is right, it needs to have double the repeats. So I'm going to set this to 12 by 12. And now when I render, I should see a red line around each of my tile squares, if I've done everything right. Oh, thank goodness, I have. So whatever number you've used in the Place 2D node for your checker, double that and apply that to the grid. So the red is where my grout is going to go. And right now the grout is really wide. That's like a 1980s linoleum grout. And I'm going more for a really amazing marble. So the U width and the V width in the grid attributes set the width of this red line. I'm going to turn that down to a 0.01. And I'll do that for both U and V. And it's reassuring to know that I can go smaller and thinner if I need to. I'll just hit the render button and see how thin this is. And good, that is like barely there, which is just what I want. So my grout color, I'm just going to make it kind of a dark gray color. Very low saturation, just very low color in general. And that should be fine. The big thing that I want to do with this is, in addition to just putting a grout color in for these lines, I also want to make a bump map. So I'll render this one more time so you can see my nice, subtle, neutral grout color. Barely there, it barely exists. That's fine. Lovely. So, now that I've got this set up, I'm just going to take this whole thing. I'm going to make a bump 2D node right there. I'm going to take, let's see what out alpha will give me in my bump value. And connect this out normal down to the normal camera. Okay, sure, my preview is messed up. Fine, I didn't care about the preview anyway. So I'll just go back and re-render, and maybe I'll save this image down so I remember what it looks like before it bumps. And now let's try it out with a bump. Oh my, that's a lot of bumping. So before, whew, after. At least I know the bump map is working, that's good. So let's take this bump map, and I feel like it's actually, if anything, bumping in the wrong direction. So I'm going to set it down to negative point. I said I'm going to set it down to negative 0.1. Just straight up negative 0.1. Let's do this render again. And I think that's still a little too much. I'm going to turn it down even further. Let's go down to negative 0.01. Negative 0.01. And we'll do that again. And I'll just keep going until I've got something that I think is really soft. Because I want a little bit of bump for the grout, but I don't want the tile to be so exaggerated. It's a little better. That's a little better. I could live with that. I will admit that sometimes what I do, and I'll show you this in case anybody wants to do it, I'm going to take this grid node and I'm going to Control D to duplicate it. You'll note that when I did that, it came in without any inputs. I'm going to reuse this Place 2D texture node by connecting its out UV to Grid 2's UV coordinates, and that way it's using the same UV space. In this case, I'm going to take the grout line and just make it completely black, and then I know I've got this beautiful, really dark dottish pattern over here. I might just use that as the fill color, so that I've basically just got dark lines and even darker dots, which should give me something really nice when I go into the bump. So I will give that a shot, and in this case, because I'm working with black and white values, I'll go straight from output R to the bump value, and we'll see if that gives me something a little bit nicer. Yep, there we go, rendering away. That bump is still too high. Okay, 0.001. Come on, nice subtle bump. Don't let me down. Oh yeah, that's perfect. Just what I was hoping for. The last thing I'll say is that with floors, sometimes it's really nice to go in and give them a little bit of a coat. The coat will just give you a little like secondary shine on top of your other shine. It helps with reflections, it'll help fragment the reflections a little bit. And you know, a lot of marble floors are really shiny. So go ahead, see what happens if you add a little bit of coat on top of everything else for your final look. But I do think that you should probably spend the majority of your time getting that bump set up, because sometimes it's really annoying. But having a little bump, even if it's just a very little bump, will help you out in a big way. So there's my final render for my marble floor with 2 different marble patterns, a little bit of grout and a little bit of bump. The very last thing I'll do is I will mention this little icon above the work area. This will clean up my tree. Sometimes it works really well, sometimes it doesn't. But when it does work, it shows you just how much you've done here. And let's be honest, this was not that difficult. You know, there was a lot of duplicating and a lot of making connections and remaking connections and checking things out. But at the end of it, you get this network that just looks amazing, and it looks like you put so much time and effort into it. So I hope that you enjoyed making this floor. I'll just go through and make sure that everything is named appropriately. And that one's going to be the marble checker, Place 2D. This one will be the marble grout grid, and this will be the marble grid place 2D. And that should cover everything. So I hope that you enjoyed that process, and I hope that you've all got really beautiful floors. I'm really excited to see them, so good luck, and let me know if you have any questions.